Coming up in this masterclass, we will be looking at the branch of the future and what's next for banks.
It needs to be remembered that to digitise a bank opening process, account opening process, for example, can reduce the time taken by 40%.
What about the near to short-term future? You mentioned branches, where traditionally there is a lot of paper. What is the future of the branch?
The branch network is the most expensive way of delivering service to the customer. So every transaction you have in branch is over £3 per transaction. If you're doing online, it might be less than 20 pence. So it's a very high cost channel, but still a very important channel. We see most banks are taking a couple of different strategies and maybe tiering their branches. There's maybe a tier of transactional branches which are focused on reducing cost and making sure that they can automate some of the more transactional elements of the branch interface, so less people, more machines. And then there's the advisory centres, where they're trying to drive higher cost products into these centres so they can lift the average deal of each of those different transactions, the size of each of those different transactions. So we definitely see this kind of trend between the two. And those advisory centres, they're trying to reinvent the customer experience. There's the Barclays CEO has gone on record to explain that he wants his branches, his advisory branches, to be more of an Apple store. Now that's kind of difficult to do that transformation, to emulate a retail experience in a bank if you're still tied to paper-based processes. If you're in the middle of opening a new account and the advisor runs away to the back office and starts photocopying pieces of paper or sits behind a desk and asks you to fill in 15 forms, that's not really the kind of retail store experience, the Apple experience. So our value is we will enable that branch transformation by digitising those paper processes, by making sure that those touch points with the customer never revert back to pieces of paper or photocopying, and the customer has a choice about how they're communicated with, whether it be through traditional paper or more and more they want something which is delivered to them in electronic format via email or via a Dropbox of some sort. So we see that as an exciting new way of interacting with customers and making sure that customer experience is as the banks want them to be transformed.
And you are already working with some banks in the branch transformation?
Yeah, specifically there's a kind of low-hanging fruit, some of the processes that we know are high volume that we need to focus on first, and probably true of most banks across Europe. The kind of account opening, that first engagement you have as a new-to-bank customer is one of those key processes. And maybe contrasting what it was like with what it could be is the best way of describing it. You go in and you fill in a kind of the forms, but then the paper contract is printed. The advisor will run away and get other bits of paper from filing cabinets that they bring to you. You ask the same information many times, and at the end of it, you need to prove your ID. So they take that and they go away and photocopy a massive pack. Takes a long time. You walk out with 30 pieces of paper, which you're not quite sure what they're for. I guess the new world is, why go to paper at all? Let's get a smart interactive document. We're using, in many cases, we're using our tablet technology based upon Windows 8 as the inspiration behind the delivery of these paperless documents, these electronic forms. So we're delivering those onto an Elite Pad, where the document can be signed directly on the Elite Pad, and the whole scanning of identification of information is integrated with the Elite Pad, so that the teller never leaves the customer.
I see. And
then finally, at the fulfillment piece, the customer has the choice. The customer can tell the advisor exactly how they want to receive the welcome pack. Is it through a piece of paper, which is maybe traditional, or more, can we send it to you via email? And by the way, why can't we do some cross-selling and upselling at the same time? So that's a kind of an example of one very specific branch process, which seems to be the focus area for many banks across Europe.
So let's wrap up and count some of the benefits from digitising banking. Which ones would come to your mind first?
Well, I guess the last example I gave of the account opening, the specifics there would be the customer experience. This idea of trying to make sure that banks learn from other industries and deliver that customer experience that maybe telcos or retail stores can provide. So certainly the customer experience is a big measure.
It just needs to be remembered that to digitise a bank opening process, account opening process, for example, can reduce the time taken by 40%, and that's huge, both in customer experience and the cost of that process. But also, it needs to be remembered that all data out there which is not digitised, it's in paper format, old legacy formats, microfiche, film, whatever it happens to be, is unstructured. And unstructured data gives you no value. Digitising it gives you information, makes you compliant, and gives you an insight into that data that you might be able to use to service your customers better, make your business more efficient.